Hey everyone, I'm Jennifer Purcell with Spark Flash Fiction, and today we are chatting with Rachel Blanchard, the author of Serendipity and Snow. As an indie author, Rachel writes sweet stories filled with hope, romance, and redemption. Her publication credits also include The Secret Place, Christian Devotions.us, and Inkspirations Online. She is an English major, teacher, wife, and mother of three, and can be found frequenting theme parks and bookstores in Central Florida. So let's start with my favorite question. Rachel, what was the inspiration behind Serendipity and Snow?
So I'm from Central Missouri. I don't think I could have written this story if I was born in Central Florida where I live now. Um, so unfortunately, I have to admit that I have been stuck driving in the snow and in the ice. Not to where I couldn't make it to my destination, but when I was kind of like sliding around and scared. And I have the best dad ever. Like, it was when I was in high school, and I actually called him on the phone. I was all freaked out, and then he like followed me to my high school parking lot to make sure I was okay. But suffice it to say, I do not miss that part of living in the heartlands. So I felt like I had a lot of good memories of the snow to kind of find out where I could trap my couple and create a little tension that way.
Ooh, I love it. And that makes me feel a little bit better that you, someone who lived in Missouri and encountered snow a lot more than me in Georgia, also was a little bit nervous about driving because, when we got snowed in, a lot of us stayed at home. We're like, we're not going out there. We're still scarred from 2013 when Atlanta got stuck on the interstate. So that makes me feel a lot better about that. But I am kind of curious because this was a second chance romance. So is that a trope that you enjoy, or did you find yourself writing this and it just felt right?
I tend to write second chance romance. I just feel like it goes with those Christian themes of redemption, right? Like, yes, we can kind of mess things up a little bit or be foolish in our youth, but ultimately there's always a chance for healing. Like, my heart loves that kind of story.
Well, I love that. That is the best reason for a second chance. Well, obviously, this is a contemporary romance, but is contemporary your favorite subgenre, or do you have another one that you find yourself reading all the time?
Actually, it is not. So I'm a big YA fantasy reader. I read a
Ooh.
lot of books from like Enclave Publishing. That's kind of my wheelhouse. I think because when I was little, there's so many wonderful stories like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I don't know. I just never grew out of fairy tales, so that would be my preference.
You know what? I love that. Now, I have to ask though, because I'm not fully versed in fantasy, but I hear a lot of things online. So do you like the fantasy that has like the fae, or are you more into oh, you are?
Um, I have actually only read one book like that, and it
Mhm.
was super good. It was called Mortal Queens. I hope I'm getting the title right, by Victoria McCombs, and it is a Christian author. So that kind of made me going with like certain publishers makes me comfortable to try things like it's
Mhm.
not going to be too out there. It's still going to be kind of trying to like go towards the light. And oh my gosh, it was so good. I highly recommend. But I read a lot of like medieval, like knights in shining armor. Um, I would say more of that sort of thing, but I feel like I read a pretty wide range.
Yes. All right. I have to say, it's been a while since I've read a fantasy, but they involve dragons. And so sometimes when I see them talking about these other ones, I'm like, I am very far behind, apparently, in my fantasy reading. So is there another fantasy novel that you loved that would be like your go-to recommendation?
Well, if you're interested in dragons, I really liked Ember Gold by Rochelle Nelson. And it's got a pretty cover too. So it is a romance. I'm big into romance. I should say that. Fantasy romance, any kind of romance, I'm usually safe to like it.
Yeah, I feel you there. All right. Now, I know you said the second chance is the trope that you love to write, but are there any other tropes that you find yourself drawn to maybe when you're reading and you see that a book has that trope and you're like, oh, I got to read that?
I like the brooding hero a lot, and that kind of goes hand in hand with Grumpy Sunshine.
Hmm.
So to me, well, first of all, I love Pride and Prejudice, so I blame Mr. Darcy 100%. But there's just something again about seeing the good in someone, like looking past and saying, is there a reason like somebody is the way they are? Can I be kind to them and bring out something else? So as long as the person is actually changing in a healthy way, like I just find that really romantic, that kind of story.
Oh, I love that. You know, I have to say, I too can be a sucker for a good Grumpy Sunshine. There's something, and you know what? It is Mr. Darcy's fault. We're gonna all blame him. He's ruined us. Well, so tell us some other sweet romances that you've read and enjoyed recently.
I've been doing the Christian reading challenge that a lot of famous authors have put together. And so one of those books was from actually someone who was in the Snowed in Love issue, Becky Wade. So I
Oh.
finished her Sons of Scandal series with Uneasy Street. And that one is an enemies to lovers kind of second chance sort of thing. So I just love how funny her books are. They're super cute, and there's usually like a little bit of mystery, but not heavy, like just the perfect amount.
Yes, I have to agree. I am a sucker for a good Becky Wade novel. All right, let's pivot a little bit into more like writerly things. I'm curious, what is the best piece of writing advice that anyone has ever given you?
So I was fortunate enough to attend a few book signings here in
Mhm.
Florida with Rachel Houck. She's
Oh.
a contemporary romance author, and she writes royal romances as well, which are really fun. And when I said I was a writer, she said, "Don't give up." And that just struck me. I was like, wow, like people as amazing as you have wanted to give up before. And I've heard that from a lot of authors that I look up to. So if they've had to struggle through maybe like imposter syndrome or gone through highs and lows, like that gives me encouragement to know like it's just a part of the process and you have to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, I have to say, one time I saw one of my favorite authors in her newsletter. She said, I never know if I'm going to have another book idea. And I always worry that this one is my last one. And I was like, I mean, she's written so many books. And I'm like, so you worry? Like, you should be feeling good. So I'm like, okay, at least I know I'm not the only one with like a little bit of this anxiety. Now, when you write, I am curious, are you a plotter, a pantser, or are you in the middle?
I'm tend to be more of a plotter. I do like to start with an outline so I know where the story's going. But I do discover a lot as I go along. Like I'm usually pretty set on how I want it to open and how I want it to close. Um, and so I will write almost like a skeleton draft. And then when I do my initial read-throughs, I might get ideas for additional scenes to plug in the middle and kind of go back, like from front to back again, if that makes sense, and fill in where maybe the romance needs to be fleshed out or there needs to be a few more dates. And so that's really fun because it doesn't get old. Like you do all the fun creating, but then you get to think of a new encounter they might have. And by that time, you know the characters better because you've spent so much time with them. So you can kind of shake things up a little bit and see how they react.
You know what? I like that because I know someone, she outlines every single scene, and that just feels so overwhelming to me. I have found I do best if I just write like kind of like a synopsis of what I want to happen, and then I just like go from there. So I like that that works for you. That makes me feel a lot better. All right. Now, do you come up with the plot idea first, or do you first think of the characters and work the plot around the characters?
I do prefer starting with the characters. They're really the heart of the story to me. And so I just kind of think about, well, I know like theme is really big for me too. So I know what this person needs to learn and needs to go through. What would force them to grow? Usually it's maybe confronting something from their past or just being put in new situations that make them uncomfortable based on their personality. And then you see that transformation from the beginning to the end.
Ooh, I like that. All right. Now, my next question. According to your bio, you are a mom of three. You're also an English major, and obviously you're a wife, which comes with its own responsibility. So, how in your hectic schedule do you shoehorn writing?
I really have to be patient and content. Right now, I write about, I mean, on a really good day, 500 words. Sometimes it's more like 200, depending on my energy during my lunch break at work. So it is not a lot by any stretch of the imagination, but it is amazing if you just have that consistent routine, how it does grow. And I don't always feel like doing it. And a lot of times, if I just take the pressure off and I'm like, okay, well, I finished here yesterday, so let me just jot down a few ideas that probably won't be any good or a few more sentences, and then I'll probably like throw in the towel. Then you get that fever again and you say, oh, this is kind of fun, and the creativity starts to show up when you do. So I just, from the beginning of my writing career to now, I feel like I've adjusted my expectations and I kind of know like, this is the rhythm that I have in this season of life, and I'm more content with that.
Ooh, I like that. Now, when you say you write on your lunch break, are you doing it on your phone? Are you writing it in a notebook? Like, how do you do that?
I use my computer.
Mhm.
I find that if I have it on paper, it's a little harder to take from home
Mhm.
um, to, work, or if I do type something on my phone, it's usually in like a digital note-taking app, which can easily be pasted back. So I try to keep like the number of documents to a minimum and just try to use one main thing. And that decreases the switching and the time it takes to prepare when I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, so do you type into Microsoft Word? Are you like a Scrivener girly, or do you use something else?
So I've indie pubbed 4 stories so far, and each one is a little different, honestly. I've tried different ways. So this time I'm actually using Google Docs.
Ooh.
I prefer Microsoft Word. I mean, I feel like it's got good word processing, editing in it, but that's not really what I'm concerned about right now. I'm just concerned about like getting the story on the page. And so Google Docs is everywhere. And actually, the spell checker has been pretty decent so far. It's been like auto-correcting, which might be dangerous later. But for now, I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of nice. And then to actually format it into a paperback, I use Scrivener.
Gotcha. All right. Now, you mentioned 4 books, and I'm not going to let that go by the wayside. Where can we find these 4 books?
So I publish through Amazon, but it is expanded distribution. So if you have like Books a Million or Barnes and Noble, you can get it online there as well. And I brought it with me just in case, so you can see. I have 3 contemporary stories, and then this is the book of my heart, my fantasy that I wrote for myself. I think my readers were a little bit like, "What? You write fantasy?" But that's what I read, and I just kind of accidentally started with contemporary because it was a great way for me to look at my surroundings and get my bearings as I learned how to craft a book. So,
Yeah. Well, are the contemporaries in a series or are they standalones?
so my novel has a companion novella, which means
Ooh.
you will probably enjoy the novella more if you read the original first, but you don't have to if the storyline catches your eye more. And then The Rancher's Reason is a standalone. So my first 2 books are set in Florida, and then my newest book is set in Missouri. So I feel like I kind of used like both pieces of me when I was thinking of those contemporary settings. Even though they're fiction, of course, it's kind of good to ground yourself in somewhere you've been before. So
Yeah. Well, do you think you'll write more fantasy?
I'm drafting one right now that is, oh, this is like top secret information, but it is more of a dystopian feel, which again, I grew up reading Hunger Games and Divergent and all those wonderful books. So I don't know why my mood is always changing, but I think it keeps me fresh, right? Because after I spend a lot of time in one genre, it's almost like you're not even doing the same process. It's just a different sort of feeling. So I'm trying to write the thoughts that are on my heart and see if it turns into an enjoyable story from there.
Ooh, all right. Now, before we get off, where is the best place for readers to follow you and connect with you and keep up with all of your exciting news?
I've been on Instagram the longest,
Mhm.
so I do a combination of posts and videos on there, especially when I have big news. I'm also, as you might have been able to tell from my book Rex, I do early copy reading and reviews, which is amazing. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would get to read so many amazing stories as part of this activity I've picked up. So I'm also on Facebook, and then I recently this year joined TikTok, which has been fun, like learning their videos and how they're a little different. So
All right, awesome. All right, everyone watching, I'm going to make sure to put the link to her story in the description just in case you haven't read it yet. It's completely free on our website. And I will also make sure to put the links to her social media so you can go and give her a follow. Thanks to everyone watching. And thank you, Rachel, for joining us today. This was great.
thank you so much. Bye.
Y'all have a great week. And as always, don't stop reading.